Our medical director, Dr. and welcome all the press people who are gathered here to because whatever the new innovation comes, it's there will always be a responsibility to share to the common people. That will be the more important thing, so that it will get spread in a good way to all the people. I'll welcome you all for the gathering. Thank you.
I'm sure most of the like there are billions of good doctors around the world. But the second is, what makes you great? You say that doctor is a great doctor. What makes you great? Then it's a tough call, and it needs lot of commitment, lot of hard work. You have to do lot of sacrifices, and you have to be very precise. You have to do a lot of. You should be very passionate about the work which you are doing. There are lakhs of doctors around the world who are great. Now the third one, which is the toughest of all. What makes you a legend? When you say legend, we know the Sachin Tendulkar in cricket and Roger Federer in tennis and then Messi in football. The legends, it's not easy, it's a different orbit altogether and it's a different world altogether. To reach that place, what makes you a legend? It all depends upon how many people's life you have touched and how many people's life you made happy and made them healthy as far as the doctor is concerned. And your contribution to the medical field has improved the health of millions of people around the world. You are a mentor to lot of young cardiologists, and you are a role model to all others in the field. When we talk about legends, the numbers are reduced to hundreds. Now, if you want to see a legend in the field of interventional cardiology, he is sitting right with us. Let us give him a big round of applause and extend a warm welcome to one and only Professor Antonio Colombo from Milan, Italy. It's my pleasure, privilege and honor to welcome you, sir, to this august audience. Now, Professor Colombo is a professor of cardiology at Humanitas University in Milan. He is also the director of cardiac cath lab in Columbus Hospital. He is a professor of medicine in Columbia University, New York. He has over 4 decades of experience in the field of clinical cardiology, interventional cardiology and structural intervention. He is a great human being, a great teacher, an academician, a mentor with an excellent, keen interest in clinical research. He is on the editorial board of most of the international journals. He has authored several books in most of the interventional cardiology textbooks. He has received several international recognitions. He has more than 500 articles, I repeat, more than 500 articles in very recognized international cardiology journals. So Dr. Colombo has performed several landmark trials which has benefited again millions of people around the world. To name a couple of things, one is his work on coronary thrombosis. When we put a stent, there was a it all started in 1977. So in 1980s, when we put the stent, a lot of people used to come back with stent thrombosis because we used to discharge the patient only with aspirin. He is the person who put forward the concept of dual antiplatelet therapy. He said that one antiplatelet is not enough. DAPT is necessary to prevent stent thrombosis, and that has benefited millions of people around the world, and that has made coronary angioplasty safer. The next one is his landmark work on IVUS. He has done IVUS in people coming with stent restenosis and has proved that the commonest cause of restenosis is incomplete expansion of the stent, and he put forward the concept of aggressive post-dilatation. These two has improved the outcome of angioplasty and has made the angioplasty safer. He is a highly respected guru to most of the interventional cardiologists over the world and has brought several innovation, ideas and concepts in the field of cardiology. When we listen to him, he makes things very simple and clear, and that is the quality of a great doctor, a great teacher. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Department of Cardiology, on behalf of my colleagues and on behalf of Kaveri Hospital, Chennai, I extend a warm welcome to the teacher of teachers, Professor Antonio Colombo from Milan, Italy. Sir, we are honored by your presence. Thank you.
And I was really impressed how people reacted immediately, so it's really, I'm very impressed. Honestly, I'm very impressed the way these emergencies was taken care effectively. So let's go to the topic of today. I will be a little bit technical, but I hope not too much. Angioplasty, we all know, is a balloon dilate an artery which is narrow and compresses the plaque and makes the artery large again. This was invented basically by Dr. Andreas Grunzig in 1977 with a lot of advantages. Nevertheless, and I was part of the beginning of angioplasty, not rarely the balloon created a fracture in the artery and the artery occluded. And that's the reason why when we were doing angioplasty in 1981-82, we always had bypass surgery readily available. And we were sending a patient to an emergency bypass at least one time a week. So it was really, and when the patient went to bypass, was usually an emergency with all the consequences of emergency procedure. Then came the stent. The stent was an unbelievable innovation, but not necessarily because prevented re-narrowing, prevented restenosis. Restenosis is something bad, but it's not dramatic. The beauty of the stent is that when the artery was getting closed because dissected, placing a stent, immediately the artery stayed open and we could avoid emergency bypass surgery. So stent saved lives. Then we had the problem of stent thrombosis. I was contributor with many other doctors. The discoveries are always a group discovery. It's like an army. There is one leading the flag, but there is a lot of other people behind the flag. So I have to thank many other people that contributed. The stent resolved the problem of occlusion and mitigated the problem of restenosis because there was still some late narrowing around the metal. Then came drug-eluting stent. Drug-eluting stent means that the stent has on top of metal a special medication named sirolimus, limus, various brands, that prevent re-narrowing by decreasing the hyperplasia, by decreasing the scar formation around the stent. And this was a major innovation because the re-narrowing after stenting was about 30%. With these medicated stent went down to 10%, maybe even less. And a lot of innovation, so 3 milestones: angioplasty balloon, stent made of metal, and stent with the drug. But as I said, 10% is not zero. And when you implant stents in diabetics, long stents, the number 10% becomes 20%. So we are a little bit back to the past. We solved the problem, but not completely. And what can we do? We can implant additional stents, but one stent on top of the other is not always a good idea. And the stent is always a foreign body. If it's a very short foreign body in length, it's okay. But when you implant very long stents, you convert a flexible artery like the coronary into a rigid tube, which is not what the physiology able to deliver the same drug that is on the stent, to deliver the drug to the wall without the need to implant a stent. So the question is, why not implanting a stent? But if we go back to the time of Andreas Grunzig, many times when you do a balloon dilatation, the result is very good, it's very nice. As a matter of fact, we used to implant stents only when we had occlusions. So if the result after balloon dilatation is good and you have the possibility to deliver a healing drug without putting a foreign body, this is an advantage, because first you simplify the procedure, second you don't put a foreign body inside the artery, and third you may even make the medication to take after the procedure more simple. So this is the new innovation. This is not an innovation replacing the stent. It's an innovation that is used in some setting when the stent may not be needed. So this is important because we simplify the procedure and we make the physiology more closer to Mother Nature. How many times can you do that? Now we're about 30%, 3 out of 10. And we need studies, we need follow-up. Maybe the 30% in 3 or 4 years will become 50%, or maybe will go down to 20%. But I think this is a new field which will help our patients, I think, to live longer and to live with less side effect. But at the moment, what I said is hypothesis generating. We need studies, we need follow-up, and we will take some summaries in a couple of years. But that's my speech, and I will really appreciate some questions, because only with questions we get into more details and clarify more. Please. Doing drug-coated balloons. So this has been a major limitation, We have used rotational atherectomy, we know it's called rotablator. We have used laser. Now we have lithotripsy or shock wave to break the calcium. And we are successful, not 100%, but much better than before. And we can implant the stent better. When we do imaging, as you said, and there is calcium, the stent is deformed, is not well expanded, and if you break the calcium without removing, just breaking, the stent becomes more circular, and a circular morphology is good for the flow, because the arteries were created round, not in a funny shape. With a drug-coated balloon, there have been a lot of concerns, and your point is well taken. What happens when you place the drug on the calcium? The calcium is an amorphous surface. Does the drug stays on the calcium? How can it stay? It's not a sponge. So this is an open question, and honestly I have no clear answer. We believe that the drug will go underneath the calcium and go into the media of the wall. Preliminary data tell us that if the lumen has been made large enough, the drug will work. But this question is still waiting for a good answer, so we are doing studies how the drug-coated balloon behave in calcified lesions, and maybe by beginning next year I will give you the answer. Could be good, bad, mediocre. Understand when the result of balloon dilatation is sufficient to allow usage of drug-coated balloon and not implanting a stent. A stent, as we know, is a scaffold that you put like in a tunnel to keep the tunnel stable. In the next year, we will have data by intravascular ultrasound, by OCT, by pressure gradient, which will tell us what parameters, what numbers will give us the security that the result is stable and we don't need a support, and in other situation when the result is not stable and the support needs to be implanted. We have some knowledge because we are doing this experience with drug-coated balloon for the past 2 years. So we are getting data, publication will come. So we have not only intuition, we have some data. For example, if you do the dilatation with the balloon and angiographically the result is very nice, means the lumen is round, well opacified, you do intravascular ultrasound and you measure the area of the lumen and you see that the area is large enough, then this is a good starting point to say no need to implant a stent. I deliver the drug with another square millimeter, you wait 2 or 3 minutes, the area becomes 3.8, that's no good. That means that the vessel is coming together, is recoil, we use the word recoil, is like an elastic that distend and then comes back to the original shape. So then the need to implant a stent becomes important. Another way to approach the problem is when you have to treat a long segment of the artery. We used to implant a long stent. Now we have seen that maybe in 60% or 50% the result is good enough, and you have only to implant a stent at the very beginning of the narrowing. So instead of implanting a stent long 25, you implant a stent long 10, because all the other result is good enough and the drug-coated balloon is sufficient. So you limit the stent length, you limit the amount of foreign body intrusion into the body. So these are all refinement way. Should we call this a revolution? Maybe it's too much of a word. Is a refinement.
How do you see the resurgence of the bioresorbable scaffold? Because then you still have an option of not having a...
There is still a need for a stent which disappear, but the way is more complex than DCB, because the bioresorbable has on his back a lot of failures. So we are back underground. We have to go back to the ground and then climb the Everest.
You also mentioned distinctly the recoil of the vessel. So would you wait for the recoil?
Yes, and in many operators around the world, as a matter of fact, I'm not the only one saying what I just said, the recoil is again, the vessel comes back to the original narrowing, is something relatively quick. It takes 5–10 minutes. So if the result is stable, is usually stable. But again, we may, every time you extend your observations, you find exceptions. So to fully answer, maybe 10 minutes in 90% of the cases. Maybe we will discover that if we have some angiographic feature, the recoil may take 2 hours, and then may be better to place a stent. So we need to move forward and then to move back, to move forward, to correct. That's the way science makes progress.
Professor, you've been a guiding force for us for last 30, 40 years. Now this is more of a general question for, especially for hospital administrations as well as device companies. Last 10 years we have seen a fantastic development of devices, newer technologies like DCBs from India, stents, which I think European market also accepted the stents from Sajana and other things. So we are making progress in terms of the devices, drugs, as well as other things. In terms of reaching out to the level where Europe and US has reached, from your lifetime experience, what is your advice to us that we should do? Because doing an indigenous study in India, it's a difficult thing, a randomized study, like what you are doing in Europe or US is difficult. At the moment, all these companies are doing outside and then bringing it and marketing it here. But you have a huge experience. How should we go forward as an young sort of people wanting to sort of get into that and develop?
I think you should do a study in India because studies are important and nothing wrong against studies. But nowadays, a study is so expensive. I don't know if you really need it to make so expensive, but the bottom line that is very expensive. And every time you plan a study, you must have a supporter behind, and the supporter behind willing to pay for the study wants the results. Sometimes before having done the study, they say that a proper study you should write the discussion before the results. So I'm a little bit drastic, but I think there is a need to go back to some honest, not that the other studies are not honest, but really what I call investigator-driven studies. Studies led by medical school, by university, by hospitals, not necessarily interested to sell the device, but to be a little bit more humble and to be willing to take the risk also to do a negative study. And these, it happens, I'm not saying that the industry is in bad faith, but these tends less to happen, let's put it that way. And I think in a country like India, where the cost of many items and manpower is not so high, you can do good studies with important objectives. So my answer to your question is that no question to believe to other studies, but you have now the human, the intellectual, the scientific strength to do Indian studies. We have seen in the last 5–10 years an emergency of studies done in China. 15 years ago, we would never dream that Chinese studies would reach the level to go to Lancet, to Circulation, to New England Journal of Medicine. Now, Chinese people can make a true Chinese study and reach international journals. So, why not India?
What is putting balloon into the age 74?
The most challenge is to accept a mediocre result compared to stenting. When you implant a stent, the result is almost always perfect. When you do not implant the stent, the result is good, but is not as perfect as the stent. And for people like me, which I have gray hair have been used to angioplasty without a stent, I know that. But young generations of interventionists are not used to a mediocre result. So they always feel that something is missing and this should be done in a better way. And they resist not to implant a stent. It's an act of faith, of looking in the future, I don't know. But it's something that people have difficulty to do.
The drugs dosages differ for youngsters and old 74 is different, or same drugs dosage? Dosage of drugs.
Different ages. It's the same dosage. It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same, it's the same, it's the same.
Thank you, Professor Antonio, for your
to raise this occasion. It's a great pleasure to have you, sir. He has been technology for the patient. Just because we have so many stents doesn't mean that we need to put some 10 stents in the patient. So you put future complications as well. And sir has been so much fortunate to have a wonderful set of consultants. I'd like to thank all the consultants in the cardiology team, senior consultants, Dr. Manoj sir, Dr. Anantram and Dr. Sundar, and also Dr. Deep Chandra, EP doctor, and the cardiac surgeons, Dr. Raghuram sir, Dr. Kumar. We got a wonderful set of consultants, and we all work together for the betterment of the patient care. And thank you all. And let me sincere thanks to our co-founder and executive director, Dr. Aravindan sir, who has got this wonderful team together and also got a fantastic infrastructure in the hospital. So whatever is there for the complex from outside. Then we have got wonderful devices to see the heart from inside. We know the heart is an important organ. It is supplied by coronary arteries. We need to go inside the artery to see the block. So for that we have got instruments like intravascular ultrasound. You would have seen ultrasound like we do for the abdomen, for do an ultrasound scan. Similar ultrasound, but very small instrument. It goes into the coronary artery. It can see accurately from within. So that is called IVAS, that's what the doctor is mentioning. And we have got another technology called OCT, optical coherence tomography, that again will be used to image the arteries from inside. So that is needed. And sometimes you want to do an angioplasty, you want to break open an calcified area. You need special instruments. We have some instruments called rotablation, where you can drill holes inside the block that we have. We have devices to dissolve that block altogether with a laser. We have got a laser angioplasty and all advanced equipments like shockwave lithotripsy. Every armament is available with us. So thanks sir for getting this fantastic infrastructure and the doctors to do this infrastructure. Next I'd like to thank the wonderful members of our cardiology team. We can see our cardiac nurses, cardiac technologists, everybody is there, and they all form part of our team, and they provide comprehensive patient care. Thank you all. Finally, I'd like to thank members of the media and press who need to take this information to the public. So everybody needs to know that such fantastic technology like drug-coated balloons are available with us in Namma Chennai, in Namma Kaveri. So that people should know. So the latest technology available in the US or in Europe is available currently in here in our hospital, and every common man can make the best use of it. Thank you all for your wonderful and continuous support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So if media has any doubts or if you want to take video bites, you can please come forward. We have Dr. K.P. Suresh Kumar and Professor Antonio who will address your queries. You can also please join us for lunch down at the 6th floor. Have a nice day. Thank you.
கை கை தள்ளுப்பா ப்ரோ நீங்களா கொஞ்சம் எடுத்துட்டு பின்னாடி வந்துட்டீங்கன்னா நாங்கள் எடுத்துக்கலாம். எடுத்துறீங்களா? கொஞ்சம் பின்னாடி வந்துடுங்க. மொபைல் போட்டலாம். ப்ரோ கொஞ்சம் மொபைல் எடுத்து பின்னாடி வந்துடுங்க. அப்படியே இருங்க சார். கொஞ்சம் வராங்க ப்ரோ. கொஞ்சம் வராங்க ப்ரோ. கொஞ்சம் வராங்க ப்ரோ. பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சார் 1 செகண்ட் சார். அப்படியே இருங்க சார்.
Say. Then we have got wonderful devices to see the heart from inside. We know the heart is an important organ. It is supplied by coronary arteries. We need to go inside the artery to see the block. So for that we have got instruments like intravascular ultrasound. You would have seen ultrasound like we do for the abdomen for do an ultrasound scan. Similar ultrasound but very small instrument. It goes into the coronary artery. It can see accurately from within. So that is called IVAS, that's what the doctor is mentioning. And we have got another technology called OCT, optical coherence tomography, that again will be used to image the arteries from inside. So that is needed. And sometimes you want to do an angioplasty, you want to break open an calcified area. You need special instruments. We have some instruments called rotablation, where you can drill holes inside the block that we have. We have devices to dissolve that block altogether with a laser. We have got a laser angioplasty and all advanced equipments like shock wave lithotripsy. Every armament is available with us. So thanks sir for getting this fantastic infrastructure and the doctors to do this infrastructure. Next I'd like to thank the wonderful members of our cardiology team. We can see our cardiac nurses, cardiac technologists, everybody is there and they all form part of our team and they provide comprehensive patient care. Thank you all. Finally, I'd like to thank members of the media and press who need to take this information to the public. So everybody needs to know that such fantastic technology like drug-coated balloons are available with us in Namma Chennai, in Namma Kaveri. So that people should know. So the latest technology available in the US or in Europe is available currently in here, in our hospital. And every common man can make the best use of it. Thank you all for your wonderful and continuous support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So if media has any doubts or if you want to take video bites, you can please come forward. We have Dr. KP Suresh Kumar and Professor Antonio who will address your queries. You can also please join us for lunch down at the 6th floor.